Dr. Alice Bunn is the Chief Executive Officer at the Institution of Mechanical Engineers and President of the UK Space Trade Association. She is a Fellow of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers and the Royal Aeronautical Society, and is a trustee at the charity Swim Taker, a drowning prevention charity teaching kids to swim in developing countries.
Hello and welcome to one more episode of Women of Space. This indeed is a series which is very close to my heart, talking to all these ladies across globe and getting insights on the space exploration is indeed a journey that I am going to cherish for a long time. Welcome, Alice, and finally we get to talking.
Finally, yay, we're here. Thank you for having me.
You're looking lovely, gorgeous. I like that signature look, like you said, that red goggles and red lipstick. Absolutely stunning.
If I'm not wearing red, people normally think there might be something wrong.
All right. So everybody who is watching and listening to this podcast series, Women of Space on SpaceVrse, you heard and watched a little introduction about Alice Bunn. So let's dive into that. What drew you towards space and engineering? However, I understand that academically you did your engineering into metallurgy. So what drew you towards space and engineering?
Yeah, so what drew me towards space and engineering? Well, spoiler alert, it took quite a while. So working in the space sector, as you would imagine, you meet lots of people who were, absolutely enthralled by space, as children, stared out their bedroom windows, gazing at the stars. Not so much. For me, I kind of fell into engineering first, I guess, through metallurgy, and I just did the subjects I was good at, like maths, physics, chemistry. They naturally guide you towards material science, metallurgy, engineering. So quite lazy choices in that sense. And already while I was doing my research, I had my first brush with space, which was that I had an experiment flown in space. Wow, I hear you cry. No, not so much. I was not particularly wowed by this at all. It's just that settling was getting in the way of the thing I was trying to study. So if you take that same experiment to zero gravity, there will be no settling, and it's easy to study what I was trying to study. So I was like, yeah, fine, just take gravity out of the way. Second brush with space was working in the Science Museum in London, where the Space Gallery was like a big draw. Again, it was interesting, but I wasn't that wowed. It was just a really popular gallery in the Science Museum. But my third brush was when I understood about the immense power of space for the environmental monitoring of our own planet. And that was the point where I got really enthusiastic. I was like, wow, so that's really useful. That's really useful. That's really powerful for, life back on Earth.
So that was the moment which shifted your focus towards space.
Yeah, 100%. Before then, it was a bit of a curiosity, little bit in the sci-fi world, nothing that really touched our lives in as far as I understood it. And when I understood, over 50% of the essential climate variables that we need to measure to even begin to understand our changing planet can only be measured from space. I was like, wow, this is really significant. This is really important.
You know what? It is said, Alice, that women are input-oriented and men are output-oriented. It's a normal saying. But in your case, what I understood is that you're more output-oriented and then you do the work in the reverse. My question to you is that you have worked with global bodies. And one lesson, because the series is called Women of Space, one lesson that taught you about leadership and one lesson that you learned about teamwork. Although, like I said, that women are, I think, born team player, but the question is more about leadership as well as your lessons on teamwork.
Well, I suppose I can talk about both, really. So teamwork in space is, it's said often, space is a team sport, and it really is, because to give an example, with space programs, if one person wins, everyone wins. If one person loses, everyone loses. And that is coming into really sharp focus now when we talk about space sustainability. If one person is mucking up that operating environment, then everyone, including that one person, stands to lose. So space really, really, I think, illustrates the power of teamwork really well.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership, well, leadership is the thing that we need in order to make sure that everyone behaves responsibly and everyone is indeed a winner, not a loser.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, I've seen that. So one of the best examples that I saw of that was in the work that brought together a global collaboration of space agencies who were sharing images of the Earth in the immediate aftermath of natural disasters. And that was really, really powerful because, yeah, it was tricky because you had to think about some of the engineering challenges of interoperability. You had to perhaps think about some of the security concerns, commercial concerns. But actually, the leadership there was setting that really powerful vision of what could be achieved, how we could all benefit on Earth if we could
Mm-hmm.
just get our act together to, sharing this
Mm-hmm.
data to make sure that we can really support emergency response.
Mm-hmm. Off the record, Alice and I, we were talking about some aspects of space exploration, and while we were talking, it also came up that how, what are your thoughts on commercial actors in space exploration? Because the other day there were certain viral Instagram reels also that they were talking about that how space exploration is becoming more commercialized. What are your thoughts? Good thing, bad thing, or something in between?
I think it is a thing yet to be seen. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sitting on the fence there, but when we talk commercial, I mean commercial, I mean market driven. I don't mean government bankrolled. And I don't think yet we've seen what if how big the scale of any commercial exploration programs will be. What we have seen absolutely is commercial space programs in the low Earth orbit in particular, but also geostationary and medium. So in those satellite missions that circulate, circling our planet, and there's many, many of them, every day, providing communication services, providing navigation services, providing information about the environment, they're all fully commercial. So that bit's happened already, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not we will achieve that same outcome in commercial exploration, I am a little bit more cynical about.
Are you suggesting that to to witness or experience space now, you do not need to be an astronaut, which I know you do not need to be an astronaut, but I for a layman, I would want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, the space sector is an amazing place to work. And, if you talk to the sort of average person on the street and
Mm,
what does it mean to work in space? They would probably have this image of an astronaut. But behind every astronaut sits literally hundreds of thousands of different roles. So
mhm.
you could be working in space, you can be, part of that sector, but doing many, many, many different roles.
I think, Alice, for my next question, you are the perfect person. I've interviewed, trust me, I've interviewed a lot of people from space industry, but it is my gut feeling that you are the correct person, an apt person to ask that question. The question is that can you give me two or three examples that how space exploration or space engineering will help real world problems? Because I do not know if me or my daughter would ever be able to go to Mars. But the real world problem, uh, do you think space exploration can help? And if you can explain us in a very simple language so that all the viewers who are not from space directly, not connected to the space
Yeah.
industry directly, can also understand.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Space program, space engineering is already absolutely hardwired into in the lives of every single one of us, right? So I'd say things like, before I'm speaking to you from my office, before I get to my office, I probably use space programs about 6 or 7 different times, right?
Mhm.
And that seems surprising to people. And then you say, okay, did you look at the weather forecast? Okay, so
Mhm.
over 99% of the data that goes into a weather forecast comes from space. Did you catch the train? Did you maybe use the sat nav in your car? Did you know that all of the logistics of, receiving that parcel through the post are enabled from space through satellite communications, through satellite navigation. Did you know that when you went to your cash point? I did go to a cash point. I know that's quite retro these days, but I did this morning go to a cash point, and every single financial transaction is time stamped, is verified by space engineering. So you start to get your head around that, and you realize that actually, space is this invisible fabric that is absolutely woven through all of our lives.
Mm-hmm. True, correct. Very true, very true. Alice, on that note, I want to understand, since you have headed a lot of international space bodies, what is the scenario of international cooperation in space exploration and in space economy? Because earlier, the complete space industry was governed by the government sector, but now there are a lot of private players who are acting upon, and we have boundaries on Earth. Right now, currently, there are no boundaries in space. So, how are these boundaries merging and international cooperation is happening for the better exploration in space?
Yeah, it's a really tricky question, isn't it? Because, back to that thinking about teamwork, there is only one space operating environment, okay? And no one owns it. We talk about the importance of not making the same mistakes in space as arguably we have done on Earth, albeit, unwittingly when we had production of carbon dioxide and we didn't understand how damaging that carbon dioxide could be to our environment. We need to be really, really careful that we're managing the space operating environment so that doesn't become completely unusable as well. Now, here's the tricky bit. No one owns it. So we all, to an extent, rely on each other for those safe operations, but no one owns it. Also tricky. The pace of technological innovation is far, far, far faster than our ability to negotiate new international rules. Our ability to negotiate new international rules is relatively limited, and it's certainly very, very slow. So we have to find a pragmatic path through that. There is a lot of hope. There's a lot of initiatives out there, people thinking creatively about how we can support that pace of innovation, but also at the same time make sure we're doing it in a responsible way. We had a brilliant kind of rule of three in the UK when we were talking about how we can enable that flight testing of new technologies. And the rule of three was, tried and tested launcher, tried and tested sort of platform carrier, if you like, and orbit, which was low enough that the experiment would run its course, do that thing of successfully demonstrating the technology in orbit, but also deorbit and naturally burn up within 12 months of being launched into space. So that really nice balance between being able to support innovation, being able to support those next steps in our space engineering programs, but also doing it in a way which doesn't leave a negative footprint for those to follow.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's one example. There's some industry-led examples through things like space sustainability ratings. I think in the fullness of time, we will see a helpful pressure, for instance, coming from the insurance sector, where there will be increasing requirements to be able to operate sustainably. And that in itself will have a positive drive, a positive, leverage towards more sustainable operations. It is difficult, and it is, of course, difficult because we use the space environment for civil purposes as well as defense purposes. And there it is. That gets tricky.
True. That was a tricky question and very well handled. So from tricky question to the favorite part of my series, I love talking about, besides your professional journey, besides your professional space, there is always a space that's called my space, my own space, where you pursue your passion, your hobbies, something that keeps you alive. In your scenario, I was just going through, what is Swim Taika? What connects swimming and your space journey?
Yay! Swim Taika is a small but mighty charity.
Tell us more about
We
it.
do. We're tiny. I chair the board. We've been running for 5, 6 years now, and it was the brainchild of our CEO, who had been traveling and identified that there was a lot of incidents of drowning, often happening in developing countries, often in developing countries that were by a water's edge, either lakes or the sea, where there wasn't a culture of learning to swim. In the UK, there's quite a lot, we routinely children learn to swim, usually as part of a school program, but outside of that too. In other countries, less so. So we fundraise and then we support those programs overseas to teach children to swim. It's really simple. Drowning is
Really?
the kind of hidden pandemic. People don't realize how many people a year die from that. So we're very proud to make our small but mighty contribution to that.
Oh, is it? Okay, I never thought in that way. But Swim Taika, interesting name and very interesting cause. I wish you all the best on that. Very quick question, something interesting, because these are the questions that everybody expects that if you're talking to somebody from space industry, you should ask. Tell me one planet, if you get a chance to visit, which planet would it be?
Ah, boring answer. Planet Earth. It would. It would. I honestly think there is so much to be discovered on our own planet, and there's so much wonderment in the natural environment of our own planet. We don't actually need to go to other planets. We just need to take better care of this one. And I'm sure, do you know what? I'm sure in the near future, there will be all sorts of, AR, VR technology using data and information from space that will help, virtual tourism, all those kind of things happening. And I hope through that, there will be that really positive rebound for people to recognize that they need to take better care of our own planet. I know there's all this the talk, isn't there, of, we need to have a planet B, we need to fall back, we need to colonize Mars. I don't think that's going to happen any day soon. And I think we are much better taking care of the planet we currently live on.
I like the plan A. On that, any space movie which got the space correctly or maybe really incorrectly? Just
Yeah.
if you are like a movie buff.
Do you know what? I'm terrible. I should have thought about this. I should have thought about this. So I'm kind of I don't get a lot of downtime for TV or movies. I've got 4 kids, so that's not a thing that happens very often.
Okay.
I suppose the one thing I would say, not that it was perfectly technically accurate, but Gravity did shine a light on that problem of debris in the space operating environment.
Hmm.
Mm. Did it change the world? Probably not, but
Hmm.
it did a good thing in
Hmm.
raising awareness of that particular issue. Let's leave it at that.
Purpose solved. Usually, all the media, the major aim is to raise awareness because the change is we need to bring the change. Like you said, that you don't get much time, but any documentary or any book that you would like to suggest, or any YouTube channel that you would like to suggest to people besides SpaceVrse to know more about space.
Yeah, so I am partway through a book called A City on Mars, which was, I think it was the winner of the Royal Society's book prize thing last year, and it's really, really it's a lovely read. It's very light, it's very informative, it's very humorous, and it is just giving you a different take on. Okay, if we did have to go and live on Mars, what would that really look like? What would that really look like? What would the barriers be? How realistic is this? And it's a very accessible, but technically accurate and technically informative read. So that would be my go-to.
All right. Okay, talking about books and merchandise, I'm wearing a hoodie which has got a very nice space thingy here going on, and all these merchandise are SpaceVrse merchandise designed specifically for people who are interested in space, like me and Alice, and all the links are pinned down below. Go and check out these interesting merchandise. Moving on, Alice, this is the core question of the series because the series is called Women of Space. And the idea behind this is that, how can we motivate young girls, like girls who are of my daughter's age, to understand that space is an industry where they can actually explore their career, and it is not essential that you need to have a physics or a maths background. There are a lot of ways that you can become part of the space industry. Do share your insights on that.
Oh wow, I would be, as you would expect, I would be 100% encouraging any any girl, anybody actually, to come and look for a career in the space sector. And you're right, there's so many different skills that you need. It's not just that purist, maths, physics background. Communication is a huge, huge thing that the space sector needs more generally. And I think for me, the big attractor, I said it at the beginning, the big attractor of the space sector is the fact that it has the power to deliver such amazing societal good. We are doing amazing things for our planet and our people through our space programs, managing our planet better, managing scarce resource, understanding what is going on. And I think one thing that makes me feel really hopeful is, this next generation is very purpose driven. And I think you can find your purpose in space. It is a very powerful sector. So I would hope that would be a really good motivator for everyone to understand that space is not just about astronauts and exploration. It's about delivering really solid societal good for how we live our lives today.
Great. Thank you so much, Alice. Anything if I've missed out asking you, or anything in particular that you would like to share your thoughts or your opinion? As you are the subject matter expert, please feel free to do share.
Yeah, I think it's just worth commenting at this time of great, geopolitical tension. It's kind of pretty much everywhere you look. Space has a wonderful track record of being able to engender the kind of international collaboration that has been quite difficult to achieve on ground. Obviously, we've seen that stretched quite a lot recently. But again, I think not least through the scientific community, you still find those really, really important links between countries being sustained as we go through fractious times. And I think that's really, really important. And again, for me, I find that really, really inspiring and hopeful that we can use our space programs to bring about a way of working together, a way of rubbing along together that is sometimes difficult day to day on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Lovely, lovely. I think on that note, that's a perfect note to conclude this conversation. It was really, really nice talking to you. I love the way you quoted various examples in the simplest way. You explain a lot of things. And thank you so much for your time, Alice.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
This is Women of Space series. You are watching it on SpaceVrse YouTube channel. If you want to listen or watch it on any other podcasting platform, it is also available on Spotify, and you can watch and listen to it on any other podcasting platform. Like I said, there are a lot of merchandise by SpaceVrse, and those are tagged just below in the description. Do shop for them, and thank you so much for watching and listening.